What's up, everybody? The Lakers are in full swing behind the scenes, and despite the silence on the surface, reports keep pouring in that the front office is still aggressively exploring trade possibilities. The message is clear. This franchise isn't just aiming for a playoff run. They're fully committed to chasing a championship this season, now that they've got LeBron James and Luka Doncic wearing purple and gold. And when that's your foundation, the urgency is obvious. But the challenge? They can't afford to make the wrong move. With limited trade assets and a delicate cap situation, every potential deal has to be measured, calculated, and perfectly timed. Now look, everyone wants action. Fans want movement. It's easy to scream for a trade when a roster hole feels obvious. But smart front offices know that no deal is better than a bad deal. The key is patience, waiting for the right opportunity to drop into your lap. The Lakers' assets, while not abundant, are growing in value the longer they hold them. That becomes a major factor as the season progresses and other teams around the league start reevaluating their own situations, especially when the trade deadline gets closer. There's been buzz around a potential move for Andrew Wiggins. Now, on the surface, that seems like a solid target, a two-way wing with championship pedigree who could immediately upgrade the Lakers' starting lineup. But there's more to it. Miami, for example, reportedly wants to clear salary space. If they're ready to move off Wiggins purely to dump his contract, then maybe a deal becomes viable. But early in the season, they're going to want compensation. As time goes on, especially closer to the deadline, that pressure shifts. Teams won't want to give up picks just to move a contract. They'll be desperate to shed salary. That's when the Lakers, armed with expiring deals and players like Rui Hachimura or Gabe Vincent, can swoop in and get something done without paying a premium. That's where Rob Pelinka has thrived. You can question his past moves, but lately, he's played the long game perfectly. He didn't panic. He didn't throw away future flexibility on a player like DeJounte Murray when the price didn't make sense. And what happened? Luka Doncic fell into his lap. Let's not sugarcoat this. Asterisk Luka Doncic star. If any franchise managed to acquire Luka and DeAndre Ayton in the same offseason stretch, people would lose their minds talking about how they're instant contenders. But because it's the Lakers, there's a tendency to downplay everything, to nitpick and second-guess. Luka is arguably playing the best basketball of his career, looking like a legit MVP frontrunner, and LeBron. Well, he's still LeBron. As your second-best player? That's terrifying for the rest of the league. But as good as those two are, it takes more than two superstars to win in the modern NBA. Depth, chemistry, and fit are just as critical. That's why the front office is watching closely. They're letting things breathe. Maybe someone like Jake LaRavia takes a leap. Maybe Jared Vanderbilt returns to form. Maybe Austin Reeves ends up being more effective off the bench. These internal developments could fill holes without costing the Lakers a single asset. And if that happens, suddenly the urgency to go get someone like Wiggins drops dramatically. That doesn't mean they're sitting on their hands. The phones are active. Conversations are happening. But Rob Pelinka knows timing is everything. You don't strike just to say you made a move. You wait for the right move. Like a fisherman standing in the water with his hands ready. You stay still, stay patient, and when that perfect catch swims by, then you pounce. That's the mindset. That's the strategy. There's also the element of league-wide chaos that's coming. Every season, there are teams that expected to contend but fall apart by mid-season. There are always surprise, overachievers looking to tank or retool. And in that shuffle, value players become available. Guys like Matisse Thybulle or Caleb Martin. Players who might not make sense for their current teams, but could be a perfect fit for the Lakers system. These aren't blockbuster trades, but they're the kind of strategic moves that fill gaps, tighten rotations, and elevate a contender to champion status. Brooklyn, Portland, maybe even Toronto. These are franchises that could be open for business come January or February, depending on how the first few months go. The Lakers have kept themselves flexible for that very reason. And again, it's important to highlight that the patience has paid off. Rob Pelinka didn't trade for DeJounte Murray when the price was absurd, and now that looks like a bullet dodged. He didn't blow the cap sheet chasing a name when the team wasn't sure about the fit. Instead, he added Luka Doncic, DeAndre Ayton, and Marcus Smart all within months. That's a massive win. Any other team pulls that off, and they're the darlings of the NBA. Because it's the Lakers, people nitpick instead of celebrate. And still, there's that lingering question. Is this roster one piece away? Maybe. Maybe not. That's what the front office is trying to figure out. Because if the answer is yes, and they know Wiggins is the piece that puts them over the top, then Pelinka makes the call. But right now, it feels like they're still evaluating, seeing how Luka and LeBron gel, watching what roles guys like Vincent, Rui, Reeves, and Vanderbilt settle into, monitoring who's healthy, who's reliable, and who steps up when it matters. And there's a reason for that caution, because you don't want to give up the farm for a move that only patches one hole, especially when you might have others that reveal themselves later. What if you trade your best assets for a starting small forward, but mid-season realize you desperately need another ball handler off the bench, or more shooting, or a backup big because Ayton goes down? Flexibility matters. That's why the Lakers are resisting the urge to rush. They're letting the roster show them what it is before committing to what it isn't. It's also worth noting that Wiggins himself is a bit of a question mark. His availability, his durability, his fit, all things that need to be evaluated. The last thing the Lakers want is to invest in a guy who ends up missing time or doesn't mesh with the system. Let him play, let the Warriors navigate their own season, and when the time is right, asterisk if asterisk the time is right, asterisk then asterisk you make the offer. Meanwhile, the internal options are intriguing. Jake LaRavia, for example, was a B-level defender last season. Not elite, but solid. If he takes even a small leap, that changes the equation. If he can give you 8 to 10 points per game and become a consistent perimeter defender, that's a win. Maybe he doesn't have the same ceiling as Wiggins, but if he can fill the role, it saves you from burning assets. The same goes for guys like Rui, who's already producing in that 13 points per game range. If internal development covers your needs, why rush to the trade market? So now that we've broken down the importance of patience and timing, let's talk about the other side of the coin, the urgency. Because while waiting for the perfect opportunity makes sense, this is the NBA. Windows don't stay open forever, especially not when you've got a 39-year-old LeBron James still defying father time, but clearly running out of mileage. This is why the Lakers can't afford to wait too long. They built something impressive, no question, but they still have real weaknesses. And ignoring those in the name of patience can just as easily become a missed opportunity. Rob Pelinka's ability to wait things out has been praised, and rightly so. But there's a thin line between patience and passivity. You can't wait for the perfect trade while better fits fly off the market. Let's say the Lakers believe they might not need Wiggins after all. Maybe LaRavia does step up. Maybe Vanderbilt returns healthy and dominant. Maybe the chemistry clicks and this team starts 20-5. But what if those things don't happen? What if LaRavia doesn't pan out? What if Vanderbilt's offense keeps him off the floor in tight games? What if the spacing still doesn't work and the team's perimeter defense remains a glaring issue? The difference between contending and winning it all often comes down to 1 or 2 roster moves. Championship runs are not about having the most stars anymore. They're about having the right 8 or 9 guys who fit perfectly. That's why Golden State worked so well during their title years. It wasn't just Curry and Clay and Draymond. It was the role players, the bench, the timely contributions from guys who understood their roles. That's what the Lakers have to lock in on. Luka and LeBron are a cheat code combination, but they won't carry the whole load across 82 games and 4 playoff rounds without help that complements their skill sets. That brings us back to the front office strategy. If you know you're going to need that help eventually, why wait until the deadline when teams know you're desperate? Prices go up. Leverage disappears. If the Lakers start the season hot, other GMs will know they're just one piece away. That drives up the price. And if the Lakers start slow, they lose valuable ground in the standings and create pressure to move quickly. It's a balancing act, and it's incredibly tricky to navigate. One thing that complicates all of this is that the Lakers don't have a treasure chest of picks or young talent to throw into deals. That's why their timing has to be impeccable. You've got maybe 1 or 2 real trade chips, and you don't want to burn them unless the return justifies it. Overpaying for a short-term fix that doesn't move the needle in May or June is a waste. But sitting on your hands while the West reloads and teams like Denver, Phoenix, and even Sacramento make improvements, that's just as dangerous. The wild card in all of this is health. If Luka and LeBron stay healthy and play like top-tier stars, the Lakers have a real chance. But if either of them misses significant time, the margin for error gets thin real fast. That's where depth matters. That's where having reliable role players in defined positions becomes non-negotiable. So far, the Lakers have upgraded nicely in some areas. Marcus Smart brings tenacity and leadership. Ayton gives them a versatile, mobile big man who fits perfectly next to Luka's pick-and-roll game. But the question remains, is that enough? It's possible the answer is yes. But it's equally possible that by mid-season, we're all talking about how this team is still missing that big, switchable wing defender who can hit open shots and take on tough assignments in a playoff series. And if that's the case, then yes, Wiggins makes a ton of sense. But there might also be someone else out there, someone we're not even talking about yet, who becomes available after a bad start or a locker room meltdown. That's why it's smart for the Lakers to keep their options open, but that doesn't mean standing still. There's also an emotional component to all of this. LeBron is not getting younger. The guy is still putting up all-NBA numbers, but how many more seasons like this can he truly give? Luka is entering his prime and showing signs that he's ready to be the guy on a title team. That window is now. And if the Lakers don't capitalize on it, they may not get another chance like this. Teams spend decades trying to build a roster with two generational stars. The Lakers have that. They can't waste it by being afraid to make the final push. And yes, sometimes the internal growth does happen. Sometimes the unexpected player takes a leap and changes the equation. But counting on that is risky. Counting on LaRavia becoming your best wing defender, or hoping that Austin Reeves suddenly becomes a lights-out shooter from deep, it's just that. Hope. And hope is not a strategy. You need a plan A, a plan B, and probably a plan C. And when the right deal comes along, even if it costs a little more than you want, sometimes you just have to pull the trigger and trust your stars to carry the rest. The good news is that Pelinka has shown he's not afraid to make bold moves when they make sense. He didn't hesitate when the Kyrie Irving opportunity came up. He didn't blink when it was time to move Russell Westbrook. He's proven he can make the tough call. But this time, the stakes feel even higher, because this team, as constructed, is already knocking on the door. A few minor adjustments might be all it takes to push it open. But here's where the front office has to be brutally honest with itself. Is this roster truly title-ready, or is it just close enough to fool you into thinking it is? That's the danger zone, when a team is good enough to compete, but not quite good enough to finish the job. That's when front offices freeze. That's when teams fall into the trap of overvaluing their current pieces and underestimating what it takes to get over the hump. Pelinka needs to avoid that trap. He needs to see clearly, without emotion, and recognize whether this group needs that extra jolt. Because the West is deep. Denver isn't going anywhere. Phoenix is still dangerous. Golden State, even with their flaws, has championship DNA. Sacramento is young and hungry. Memphis will get Ja Morant back. And the Clippers, well, if they stay healthy, they're still loaded. The Lakers don't have the luxury of waiting until everyone else makes their moves. They have to stay one step ahead, or at least be ready to strike the moment the right name hits the market. And look, maybe it ends up being Wiggins. Maybe it's someone completely unexpected. That's the beauty of this league. Things change fast. Stars get unhappy. Role players want out. Front offices pivot. All it takes is one call to shift the entire landscape. The key is being ready for that moment. Being prepared. Having the cap space, the assets, the flexibility, and the courage to say this is the one. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, whispers have been circulating through Los Angeles sports circles for weeks, but now the chatter seems to have solidified into something tangible. Kevin Durant, the prolific scorer and multiple-time NBA All-Star, is reportedly set to join the Los Angeles Lakers. While no official announcement has come from the team or Durant himself, sources close to the situation suggest that discussions have reached an advanced stage, sparking a frenzy among Lakers fans and NBA insiders alike. Durant's potential move to the Lakers would mark one of the most seismic shifts in the NBA this offseason. Known for his scoring prowess and ability to dominate games single-handedly, Durant could give LeBron James and Anthony Davis a formidable new ally as they chase another championship banner. The Lakers, who have struggled with consistency in recent seasons despite a star-studded roster, would instantly transform into one of the league's most feared teams if this rumor proves true. Social media has been ablaze with speculation. Fans are imagining the duo of LeBron and Durant carving through defenses in Hollywood fashion, while skeptics question whether the Lakers' salary cap and team chemistry could accommodate such a high-profile addition. Analysts are dissecting every possible scenario. How would rotations adjust? Who might be traded to make room? Could this finally position the Lakers as the undisputed favorites for the next NBA Finals? The speculation is endless, and every small piece of news is being magnified as the basketball world waits with bated breath. If Durant does indeed make the leap to Los Angeles, it could redefine the Western Conference power structure. Rival teams are likely already strategizing, knowing that facing a Durant-led Lakers squad would be a completely different challenge. While the story remains unconfirmed, the mere possibility has injected fresh excitement into a city that lives and breathes basketball. Whether this is the start of a legendary super team or simply a tantalizing rumor, one thing is clear. The NBA world will be watching Los Angeles closely in the weeks to come, hoping that this blockbuster deal becomes reality. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.